Mr. 3-2. Christopher Jewel Barrier, the streets knew him as Mr. 3-2, wasn't just another rapper from Houston. He was part of the Foundation, a real building block in the rise of the city's rap empire. For more than 25 years, he had been active, respected, and deeply connected. He helped form the Convicts, he was part of the Black Monks, and he played a major role in the early days of DJ Screw's legendary Screwed Up Clique.
Hey, what you got going on, 3-2? Tell the people what you got going on, what you got coming up real soon.
Oh, man, you know, it's some more, you know what I'm saying? I got this Pimpin' Chris coming out.
His influence spread past Texas. Even Snoop Dogg has acknowledged how much 3-2 inspired him back in the early 90s. He released music through Rap-A-Lot Records, survived the ups and downs of the industry, and stayed relevant in the city's landscape. But all that history, all that respect he earned over decades, didn't matter in the parking lot of a regular gas station in Southwest Houston. That's where everything ended. The night of November 10th, 2016 started quietly. Nothing dramatic. 3-2, who was 44 at the time, pulled up to the gas station on West Sam Houston Parkway South with 3 other men, including the man who would eventually take his life. They weren't strangers, they weren't rivals. Every source confirms the same disturbing detail. All 4 men arrived together in the same car. They knew each other well. At some point, an argument broke out. No one knows exactly what sparked it or what words were exchanged, but whatever it was, it escalated fast, much quicker than anyone there expected. Instead of walking away, the driver of the vehicle, 39-year-old Vincent DePaul Stredick, went straight to deadly force. He walked to the trunk, popped it open, grabbed a shotgun, and fired at 3-2, hitting him in the side of the head. The shot killed him instantly. He died right there in the parking lot.
Killed in a shooting outside of a gas station was a local rapper. Investigators identified the victim as Christopher Barrier. He was known as Mr. 3-2. He was a member of the Screwed Up Clique.
But the violence didn't stop after that first blast. Stredick left the scene for a moment, only to turn around and come right back. When he returned, he threatened another man with a shotgun and then fired again, this time hitting the second male in the face. Pellets scattered everywhere, and even a bystander who had nothing to do with the situation was struck by the stray fragments. Eventually, police found Stredick and arrested him. The case went to trial, and after 6 days, the verdict came down. He was convicted and sentenced to 30 years in state prison. Lul Pab. The murder of Xavier Robinson, better known as Lul Pab, was a planned assassination, a hit tied to one of the biggest and most emotional rap feuds of this generation. And it all played out at a gas station, a regular afternoon stop that turned into a carefully organized kill zone. Lul Pab, who was 24, was more than just a friend to Quando Rondo. He was family, his cousin, his close associate, someone who moved with him everywhere. On August 19, 2022, the two were in Los Angeles. Their SUV pulled into a gas station right across from the upscale Beverly Center. But the moment they stepped out, the trap was already closing in.
Well, you had a situation in LA where you lost your friend, Lul Pab. He actually died in your arms.
According to federal indictments and multiple reports, this wasn't random. This was the result of a deep, ongoing feud tied to the death of King Von back in 2020. Von, a close friend of Lil Durk, had been killed during a fight with Quando Rondo and his crew. Ever since then, tensions between the two camps had been rising to dangerous levels. Sources say that Lil Durk allegedly put out a bounty, money on Rondo's head as payback. Whether that exact amount has been publicly confirmed or not, federal documents state something even more striking. 5 members of Durk's OTF, Only the Family crew, allegedly flew from Chicago to San Diego using record label-connected funds to set up a murder-for-hire plot. Their target was Quando Rondo. They tracked him until they found him at that gas station. Right when Rondo's team started fueling the black Cadillac Escalade, the attackers pulled up and opened fire. Within seconds, the quiet afternoon turned into chaos. 18 shots were fired at the SUV. Lul Pab, who was standing outside the vehicle, was hit and collapsed. Quando Rondo survived, but the footage that went viral showed him on the ground, screaming and crying as paramedics tried to save his cousin's life. Pab didn't make it.
Sheriff's deputies pulling out a man who had been shot in an SUV. Savannah rapper Quando Rondo, a passenger in that car, frantic at the sight.
What started as a street beef had now escalated into a federal case. The attack wasn't just treated as gang violence. It was classified as a conspiracy to commit murder for hire, with the OTF members facing federal indictments. Mendenhall. Dontarius Johnson, known to Memphis fans as Mendenhall, was one of those artists everyone expected to blow up. He had the energy, the work ethic, the look, and the sound that made people pay attention. Friends described him as focused and professional, someone who treated music seriously and was always working to level up. But on April 14, 2021, at just 20 years old, his life ended in a way that felt painfully unfair. He wasn't the target, he wasn't involved. He was simply standing in the wrong place at the wrong time. That evening, a completely separate drama was unfolding in Memphis. Earlier in the day, a 20-year-old named Noah Jones had reported his black Chevy Camaro stolen at gunpoint. Police were already aware of it, but Jones took matters into his own hands. Eventually, a juvenile, the same one accused of stealing the car, drove the Camaro to a Valero gas station on Fox Meadows Road. Not far behind him was Jones, along with several associates. Instead of calling authorities or waiting for help, they confronted the situation with violence. Once they spotted the Camaro, everything exploded. Surveillance video captured what happened next. Jones and 4 others opened fire on the juvenile. Multiple guns, multiple shooters, and total chaos. At that exact moment, Mendenhall walked out of the convenience store, unaware that an ambush was erupting only a few feet away. Bullets started flying everywhere. One of them hit him. He collapsed and died right there at the gas station. The juvenile who was targeted was rushed to the hospital, but didn't survive either.
That rapper Dontarius Johnson, known as Mendenhall 2XS, he and that 15-year-old were shot and killed back on April 14th. The surveillance photos released showing the people wanted.
Police later said the same thing that his family and friends kept repeating. Mendenhall had absolutely nothing to do with the situation. He didn't know the people involved and had no connection to the stolen car. He was literally just stepping outside as the gunfire broke out. Jones was eventually found at a hospital, seeking treatment for a gunshot wound in his leg. During interviews, he admitted he was at the gas station and confessed to firing shots. He was arrested and charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder. Memphis responded with heartbreak. Nearly 400 people showed up at a vigil held right there at the gas station, all honoring a young artist whose career was building momentum. Snootie Wild. The year 2022 was already heavy with violence in the rap world, but the death of Snootie Wild stood out because of how strange and heartbreaking the situation was. Snootie wasn't a newcomer. He had already lived a full career. His breakout moment came when his hit song Yayo caught the attention of Yo Gotti, leading to him signing with Gotti's CMG label and eventually Epic Records. He had the voice, the melody, and the kind of street charisma that could turn a regional song into a national record.
You know what I'm saying, big bro, you know, he grown, you know what I'm saying, you know, yeah. I appreciate the opportunity, man, you know what I'm saying, just to even get me off that gravel, you know what I'm saying.
People respected him, and even more importantly, Snootie was trying to rebuild his life. He had spoken openly about struggling with pill addiction, and he was determined to use music as a second chance. He wanted better for himself and for his 5 children. But in the early morning hours of February 25, 2022, that future ended on a quiet street in Houston. Police received calls about a man lying in a ditch near an SUV on Alice Street, right next to a gas station. When first responders arrived, they found Snootie with a gunshot wound to the neck. He was barely alive. EMTs performed CPR on the street and rushed him to the hospital, but he passed away the next day.
Cops say Snootie Wild, whose real name was LaPreston Porter III, was found shot in the neck and head near a ditch early Friday morning.
The scene was confusing from the start, and the first statement from a witness only made the situation even more puzzling. A woman had called police because her vehicle became stuck in a ditch in that same area. She told officers that while people were stopping to help her, Snootie suddenly walked up and pointed a gun at her. Scared for her life, she ran. Seconds later, she heard a gunshot. That was all she knew.
They say a woman told them her car got stuck in a ditch on Alice Street around 2 a.m. Friday, and a bunch of strangers tried to help her. The woman said Porter pointed a gun at her and she ran away. She said she was unaware he had been shot and called 911.
The story raised more questions than answers. Snootie's fiancé confirmed his identity and insisted that he did not have any enemies. For months, nobody could explain the motive. Was it a misunderstanding, a bad moment, something else? The case stalled for nearly 10 months, and with no arrests, it felt like it might end up unsolved. But Snootie's family refused to let that happen. They hired private investigators and pushed for answers when the official investigation slowed down. Those efforts paid off. Private investigators uncovered leads that pointed police toward a 22-year-old man named Ivory Duke Williams. According to reports, Williams had bragged about the shooting on social media, basically confessing to the crime online. That information helped detectives lock in on him. In December 2022, HPD SWAT moved in, arrested Williams, and charged him with murder. Gonzoe. Ronald Moore, known to the world as Gonzoe, was one of the West Coast figures who earned respect the long way. Coming out of South Central Los Angeles, Gonzoe co-founded the group Caution, which signed to Ice Cube's Lunch Bob Records in the 1990s. That alone stamped him as part of West Coast rap's golden era. But even beyond that, his legacy was tied to something legendary. Tupac Shakur himself gave him the nickname Young Ritzy Outlaw, connecting him to one of the most influential movements in hip-hop history.
He called us and said he wanted to sign the last three, whoever was the last song on the tape, because the tape was their demo tape. That's who he wanted the group to be.
Right, and Ice Cube was huge at this time.
Yet his legacy wasn't just about the past. In later years, Gonzoe shifted focus from music to something far more meaningful. He became the CEO and co-founder of Gloves Up, Guns Down, a movement designed to help young people and artists settle their problems with boxing gloves instead of bullets. It was a peaceful, practical approach, one he believed in deeply. Many saw him as a big brother figure trying to change the culture around him. That made what happened next even more tragic. On the night of July 30th, 2021 in Seattle, Gonzoe was targeted in a shooting near Southwest Roxbury Street. Around 8:45 p.m., gunfire erupted, and he was struck 3 times in the chest. Police later found a vehicle nearby riddled with bullets, suggesting he was shot while driving or right after getting out of the car. The scene looked like an ambush, not a random attack. Despite being critically wounded, Gonzoe fought to survive. He managed to stumble out of his vehicle, struggling to make it to safety. With the last of his strength, he ran toward the nearest well-lit place, a Shell gas station, and collapsed inside. Workers called for help immediately. He was rushed to Harborview Medical Center, but he passed away overnight.
Learning that one person is now dead after the shooting in White Center that we have been talking about all morning. This happened about 8 last night near the Shell station right near Rocks Hill Park.
For many people who knew Gonzoe personally, the irony felt unbearable. A man who dedicated his later life to preventing gun violence died from the very thing he was trying to fight against. West Coast legend Sibo expressed what many felt when he said he hated to see the repeated cycle of killing those that finally have made a change in their life for the better. Even with the attention the case received, the investigation hit a wall. To this day, the case is unsolved, and the shooter has never been caught. QUAVEON Robinson. QUAVEON Robinson, known simply as The Rapper, was just 19 years old and trying to make his way into the Charlotte music scene. He had energy, he had ambition, and he was working on building something for himself. But on October 24, 2023, his life was suddenly cut short at a Shell gas station on Beatty's Ford Road, one of Charlotte's busiest and most well-known areas. The shooting was a chaotic, deadly burst of violence that resulted in multiple victims. At around 11:55 p.m., gunfire erupted in the parking lot. 3 people were hit. One man, Jadarius McCullough, age 27, died instantly at the scene. QUAVEON and another man were rushed to the hospital in critical condition. For 4 days, Robinson fought on life support, but on October 28th, he passed away from his injuries. What shocked the community even more was how senseless the attack was. According to investigators, the violence started with a petty argument inside the Express Mart convenience store attached to the gas station. The suspect, 18-year-old Jalen Johnson, got into a heated verbal dispute with someone, just a normal argument that happens in convenience stores every day. But when the disagreement spilled outside, Johnson immediately escalated to deadly force. Instead of walking away, he pulled out a pistol and started shooting. Charging documents reveal the chilling truth. Johnson did not know any of the 3 victims. McCullough wasn't involved in the argument. QUAVEON wasn't part of it either. They were simply in the wrong place at the wrong time, caught in the path of a young man who let his anger explode into violence. Police arrested Johnson on October 27th, initially charging him in McCullough's death. When QUAVEON passed away the next day, Johnson was hit with a second murder charge. El Picante. Luis Alfredo Pacheco Rojas, better known as El Picante, was a rising rapper and DJ carving out his name in Houston, Texas. At 34, he was deep into the urban and trap music scene, working with Dominican artists and trying to build a career purely off talent. What made his journey even more interesting was where he came from. El Picante grew up in a family tied directly to Dominican politics. His father, Alfredo Pacheco, was one of the most powerful figures in the country, serving as the president of the lower house of Congress. It was a privileged background, but El Picante wasn't interested in riding on the family name. He wanted success that was truly his. But on Monday evening, April 1st, 2024, at around 7:16 p.m., that same international profile became the very thing that put a target on his back. El Picante pulled up to a convenience store attached to a gas station on South Wayside in Houston. He and 3 other men climbed out of a black Cadillac Escalade, walked inside, and made a quick purchase. Nothing about it looked unusual, nothing looked dangerous, but as soon as they stepped back outside, the trap revealed itself. When they returned to the Escalade, they realized immediately that something was wrong. Their vehicle was boxed in, blocked by 2 other cars positioned in a way that left no room to escape. Before they could react, 2 gunmen jumped out of those blocking vehicles and opened fire directly into the Escalade with a kind of precision you normally only see in organized hits. El Picante was hit several times and didn't survive the attack. One of the men with him was also shot and had to be rushed to the hospital. From the setup alone, it was obvious this wasn't a robbery or a dispute gone wrong. This was a planned gangland-style assassination.
34-year-old Luis Alfredo Pacheco Rojas, known by his rap name as El Picante, died after being struck by a hail of gunfire at a gas station on South Wayside Monday night.
Because of who El Picante's father is, the situation instantly turned into an international incident. Alfredo Pacheco publicly confirmed his son's death, saying he lived outside the Dominican Republic and made it clear the family was waiting for answers. Meanwhile, the Houston Police Department quickly released surveillance photos of the gunmen, showing how seriously they were treating the case. El Picante had left the political world behind to build his own future in music, but in the end, the violence that found him was both intentional and calculated. As of now, the suspects haven't been officially named, and the investigation is still open. Cold Case. Cedric Gooden, known in East St. Louis as Cold Case, was a young rapper right on the edge of a breakthrough. At just 25 years old, he had something a lot of local artists didn't, a natural musical foundation. Instead of starting out on street corners or in basements, Cold Case's earliest training came from singing in a church choir. His mother was a soprano, and that vocal strength definitely didn't skip him. As he got older, he mixed that early discipline with the raw, unfiltered experiences of East St. Louis, blending melody with reality in a way that made people pay attention. He won several local competitions, built a strong foundation, and had a growing circle of producers who believed he was right on the verge of something big.
How you been feeling? What you been up to?
Man, grinding like a fool, boy. I'm talking about a lot of shit going on with me right now, man. This is what I do every day.
On the night of September 23, 2019, around 9:50 p.m., Cold Case stopped at a place he knew well, the gas mart on State Street and 83rd Street. This wasn't just a random location. According to some sources, he had even used that same parking lot before as a music video spot, turning an ordinary gas station backdrop into part of his artistic identity. That familiarity probably made the area feel safe, or at least normal. But that night, it became the scene of something sudden and tragic. While Cold Case was there, an unknown gunman approached and opened fire, hitting him multiple times. Everything happened fast, so fast that by the time help arrived and he was transported to Memorial Hospital, there was nothing more the doctors could do. He was pronounced dead before 11 p.m., leaving behind a community stunned at how quickly someone with so much promise could be taken.
We're right outside of the mobile gas mart here in East St. Louis on 83rd and State Street, where police say Cedric Gooden, who went by the stage name of Cold Case, was gunned down last night.
At first, investigators were stuck. There were no clear suspects, no strong motive, nothing that pointed in a specific direction. The uncertainty was so heavy that local police brought in the Illinois State Police to help sort through the case. Meanwhile, people who had worked with Cold Case struggled to make sense of it. They remembered him as a professional, a positive guy, someone full of energy and talent, definitely not the type of person anyone expected to become a homicide victim. But the case didn't stay cold for long. In the days that followed, detectives were able to piece things together, eventually leading them to a suspect. A 32-year-old man named Teron D. Jeffries was arrested and charged with first-degree murder for the killing of Cedric Gooden.